Greetings and welcome to Prison News on the new Spreaker podcast. I'm your host, and we're continuing our series of reading stories from McGuffey's readers, the kind of stories they used around the Civil War on not just to help inmate children and regular children, but also inmates and even adults learn how to read, write, and do arithmetic. Here's our first story, McGuffey's readers.
"Don't you hate splitting wood?"
asked Charlie as he sat down on a log to hinder Rob for a while.
"No, I rather like it. When I get hold of a tough old fellow like this log here, I say, 'See here now, you think you're stronger? I'm going to beat you. I'm going to split you up into kindling wood.'"
"Oh, pshaw," said Charlie, laughing.
It's only a stick of wood."
"Yes, but you see, I pretend it's a lesson or a tough job of any kind. It's nice to conquer it."
"I don't want to conquer such things. I don't care what becomes of them. I wish I were a man and had a lot of money."
"Well, Charlie, if you live long enough, you'll be a man without wishing for it. As for the rich part, I mean to be that myself."
"You do? How do you expect to get your money? By sawing wood?"
"Well, maybe some of that sawing wood. As long as this lasts, I don't really care how I get rich. You know, just as long as it's an honest and useful way."
I'd like to sleep over the next 10 years and wake up to find myself a young man with a splendid education and plenty of money."
I'm not sleepy. A nighttime of sleep is enough for me. I mean to work the next 10 years. There are things that you've got to work out. You can't sleep on them."
"I hate work," said Charlie. "That is such work as this, like sawing and splitting wood and doing chores. I want to do some big work, like being a clerk in a bank or something like that sort."
"Wood has to be sawed and split before it can be burned," said Rob.
"I don't know. Maybe.
"I know. I might be a clerk in a bank sometimes, too. In fact, I'm working towards it. I'm keeping my father's accounts for him right now."
How Charlie laughed.
"I should think that's a long way from being a bank clerk. I suppose your father sells 2 or 3 tables and maybe 6 chairs a day, doesn't he?"
"Well, sometimes more than that, and sometimes not so much," said Rob in perfectly good humor. "I didn't say I was a bank clerk now. I said I'm working towards it. Am I not nearer by keeping a little book for my dad than if I didn't keep any book at all?"
"No, not really one whit. Things can happen,"
said Charlie as he started to go. Now, which of these two boys do you think grew up to be a rich and useful man, and which of them joined a party of tramps before he was 30 years old? Next. Beware of the first drink of hard liquor.
"Uncle Philip, as the day is fine, will you take a walk with us this morning?"
Yes, I will, boys. Let me go ahead and get my hat and my cane here. We'll take a walk. In fact, I'm going to tell you a story while we go. Do you know poor old Tom Smith?"
"Know him? Why, Uncle Philip, everybody knows him. He's such a shocking drunkard, and he swears so horribly when he's drinking, lots of profanity."
"Well, I've known him ever since we were boys together. There's not a time anyway. Back then, there wasn't a more decent, well-behaved boy among us. After he left school, his father died, and they put him to a store in the city to try to make a living. There he fell into bad company. Instead of spending his evenings when he was off work and reading and studying, he'd go to the theater and go down and shoot pool. And after that, he started playing the machines, learned how to play cards, and of course, he learned how to play for money. Now, it wasn't long. He lost a lot more money than he could pay. So what do you suppose he did? Well, he wrote to his poor mother. He told her about his losses. She sent him some money to pay his debts, and she told him to come home. He did come home. After all, he might still have been useful and happy. All his friends were willing to forgive the past. Now, for a time, things went well. Now, kids, listen. For a time, things went well, I said. He married a lovely woman, gave up his bad habits. He was doing pretty well that time. But one thing, boys, ruined him forever. In the city, he had learned to take strong drink, things like gin and whiskey, things like that, vodka, strong drink. He once told me that whenever a man begins to drink strong drink, he never knows where it's going to end. Therefore, said Tom, beware of that first drink. Now, it's not long before he began to follow his old habits. Yes, indeed. He knew the danger, but it seemed as if he could not resist his desire to drink. His poor mother soon died of grief and shame. His lovely little wife withered and followed her to the same grave. He lost the respect of all the people around here. He went from bad to worse. All this time, he's basically been a perfect drunk. Now, last night, I got a letter from the city, and they told me that Tom Smith has been found guilty of stealing. They sent him to the state prison for 10 long years. I suppose he'll die in prison, because look how old he is now. It's dreadful to think of what an end has come to him. I couldn't think about it as I read that letter about him going to prison. What he said to me when we were long ago. He said, beware of the first drink. Ah, my dear boys, when old Uncle Philip is gone, remember what I just told you, the story of Tom Smith, and what he said to you, beware of the first drink. The man who does this will never be a drunkard.
All right, folks, after this, there's a actual poem that is read to the children in the McGuffey's Readers order of things. Then they discuss it. They get out their slate and chalk, do a little ciphering, and then get back to another story. The poem is entitled, Speak Gently. Speak gently. It is better far to rule by love than fear. Speak gently, let no harsh words mar the good we might do here. Speak gently to the little child. Its love be sure to gain. Teach it in accents soft and mild. It may not long remain. Speak gently to the aged one. Grieve not that careworn heart. The sands of life are nearly run. Let such in peace depart. Speak gently, kindly to the poor. Let no harsh tone from you be heard. They have enough that they must endure without an unkind word. Speak gently to the erring no. They must have toiled in vain. Perhaps unkindness made them so. Oh, win them back again. Speak gently, 'tis a little thing, dropped in the heart's deep well. The good, the joy which it may bring, eternity shall tell. Next lesson, 7 sticks. A man had 7 sons who were always quarreling. They left their studies, they left their work, and they would go out and quarrel among themselves. Now, in that town, some bad men were looking forward to the death of their father. Then they were going to cheat them out of their property by making them quarrel about it. Now, the good old man one day called his sons around him. He laid before them 7 sticks, which were bound together. He said,
I will pay $100 to the first one of you boys that can break this bundle right now.
Each of the boys strained every nerve trying to break that bundle. After a long but vain trial, they all said it could not be done.
And yet, my boys, said the father, nothing is easier to do.
He then untied the bundle and broke the sticks, one by one, with perfect ease.
Dad, said his sons, it's easy enough to do it. When you do it that way, anybody could do it.
Their father replied,
As it is with these sticks, so it is with you, my sons. So long as you hold fast together and aid each other, you'll prosper, and none of these outsiders can injure you. But if the bond of union be broken, it will happen to you just as it has happened to these sticks, which lie here broken on the ground.
Next, the mountain sister. The home of little Jeanette is far away, high up among the mountains. Let us call her our mountain sister. There are many things you would like to hear about her, but I can only tell you how she goes with her father and brother in the autumn to help gather nuts for the long winter. Now, a little ways down the mountainside, there is a big chestnut forest. They call it a chestnut wood. Did you ever see a chestnut tree? In the spring, its branches are covered with bunches of kind of like creamy flowers. They have real long tassels. All the hot summer, these are turning into sweet nuts wrapped safely in large, prickly green balls. But when the frost of autumn comes, these prickly balls turn brown and crack open. Then you may see inside 1, 2, 3, sometimes even 4 sweet brown nuts. When her father says one night at supper time,
"I think there will be a frost tonight,"
Jeanette knows very well what to do. She dances away early in the evening to her little bed, made in a box built up against the wall. Soon she falls asleep to dream about the chestnut forest and the little brook that springs from rock to rock, goes all down and around those tall, dark trees. She wakes within the first of daylight. Rubbing her eyes, she gets out of bed in a minute when she hears her father's cheerful voice call,
Come, children, it's time to be off."
Their dinner is ready in a large basket. The donkey stands before the door with great bags for the nuts hanging at each side. They go merrily over the crisp white frost to the chestnut trees. How the frost has opened the burrs! It has done half their work for them already. How they laugh and sing and shout to each other as they fill their baskets full. The sun looks down through the yellow leaves, the rocks give them mossy seats. The birds and squirrels wonder what these strange people are doing in their wood. Jeanette really helps, though she's only a little girl, and her father says at night that his dear Jane is a good little girl. This makes her very happy. She thinks about it at night when she says her prayers. Then she goes to sleep to dream of the merry autumn days. Such is the life of our little mountain sister. Next. Now this is just an old letter. This isn't really a story. I guess you'd call it a story. It says that here that Amy was a dear little girl, but she was too apt to waste time in getting ready to do her tasks, instead of doing them at once as she ought to do. Now, in the village where she lived, there was a man named Mr. Thornton. He kept a store. He sold all kinds of fruit in that store, including berries when they were in season. One day he said to Amy, by the way, Amy was very poor with her parents. He said, "Hey, would you like to earn some money?" "Oh, yes," said Amy. "Yeah, I want to buy some new shoes. Bob doesn't have enough money for me to buy new shoes." Well, Mr. Thornton told her. He says, "Hey, man," he said, "I noticed some fine ripe blackberries in Mr. Green's pasture today, and he told me that anybody was welcome to pick those berries. Now, here what I want you to do. I'll pay you 13 cents, Amy, for a quart for all the berries you'll go out there and pick me right now." Amy was delighted at the thought of earning this kind of money, so she ran home to get a basket, intending to go immediately and pick those berries. Then she thought she'd like to know, how much money she would make if she picked 5 quarts. Well, with the help of her slate and her piece of chalk, she found out that she would get 65 cents. But supposing I might pick a dozen quarts, she started thinking to herself. I wonder how much I would earn then. Dear me, she said afterwards. Then she figured it took her a while. She said, I think I can earn $1.56. Well, then she didn't quit. Amy then she figured out what Mr. Thornton would pay her if she picked 50 baskets or 100 baskets or 200 baskets or quarts, they called them back then. Now, by the time she got done doing this, it was almost lunchtime. So she had to stay and finish, she couldn't leave till after lunch. Now, as soon as lunch was over, she got her basket and hurried out to the pasture. Well, guess what? Some boys had been there before lunch, and all the ripe berries were picked. She couldn't there was no more ripe berries there. She couldn't even find enough to fill 1 quart. Now, as Amy went home, she thought of what her teacher had told her over and over and over again. Amy, do your task at once, then think about it. For one doer is worth 100 dreamers. Next. Well, folks, that's about it here for the McGuffey's Reader section we're going to be doing here. Again, these were used not only for inmate children, but regular children and regular schools, and even to teach adults back in the day, called McGuffey's Readers. Now, they did talk about the Lord a little bit, haven't they, so far? They talk about kids saying their prayers. Even the mom and dad say their prayers back then, about understanding, being good, and trying your best. Well, speaking of trying your best, I've got the electronic Bible opened up here. I'm just going to go ahead and read a couple verses of the word child. This whole McGuffey's Reader thing on Spreaker is about children, child. I'm going to read just two brief examples about Jesus Christ using the word child in some of his teachings.